Ever wish you could figure out what makes a company really great?
Not just good, but like those standouts that just seem to defy the
Yeah,
odds.
exactly. Well, today we're going to do a deep dive all about making that jump from good to great.
And it's based on some fascinating research by Jim Collins.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
His book, Good to Great, it actually comes from this huge 5-year study.
Wow, 5 years.
Yeah, over 1,435 companies they looked at, trying to figure
What
out,
makes them tick?
yeah, what separates the truly exceptional performers from everyone else.
So we're not talking about just luck or some kind of secret formula,
No.
but actual patterns and things they do?
Yeah, identifiable things in leadership strategy, company culture.
Stuff we can actually learn from.
Exactly.
And I'm betting as we unpack these principles,
Yeah.
at least one of them is going to make you go, aha, that's something I can actually use.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of aha moments,
Yeah.
one of the most interesting ideas in this book is the concept of level 5 leadership.
Level 5, okay, that sounds a little bit like a video game ranking system. But when you hear great leader, what usually comes to mind?
Usually someone really charismatic, right? The bold visionary, maybe even a bit of an ego.
Yeah, makes sense.
But what Collins found was that the truly exceptional leaders.
The ones who actually guide companies to like lasting greatness.
Exactly. They often didn't fit that mold at all.
Really?
They had this unique blend of humility and this incredible fierce resolve.
Humility, a fierce resolve.
Yeah.
Those seem kind of opposite.
I know, right?
So are we talking about like some kind of business ninja working in the shadows?
Well, it's more about their motivation, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're incredibly ambitious, but their ambition is directed outward.
Towards the company's success, not just themselves.
Exactly. They're the type who deflect praise, they give credit to others. But when it comes to pursuing the company's goals, they are relentless.
Do you have an example of this kind of leader, someone who we might recognize?
Think of Darwin Smith at Kimberly-Clark.
Okay, yeah.
He took over the company in the early 70s, and within 20 years, he had completely transformed it.
Into what?
The leading consumer paper goods company in the world.
Wow.
And he wasn't flashy or anything, but he had this quiet determination and a deep commitment to the company's success.
So it's less about personality and more about where that drive is pointed.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder if sometimes it's the quiet ones you got to watch out for.
Maybe so. But leadership is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right, of course.
Another crucial factor in making that leap from good to great is what Collins calls the hedgehog concept.
The hedgehog concept.
Yeah.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing.
It's a powerful analogy.
Okay.
So think about a hedgehog.
Okay.
It's not trying to be a lion or a bird.
Right.
It knows its one key strength defense and it sticks to it.
Right.
Great companies do something very similar.
Okay.
They figure out what their core area of focus is and they become the best in the world at it.
So how does a company even find its inner hedgehog?
Good question.
Yeah.
It's about identifying the sweet spot where 3 key areas overlap.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So what are you deeply passionate about as a company?
Yeah.
What can you be the best in the world at?
Uh-huh.
And what drives your economic engine?
I see. So it's not just about profits then.
No, it's about aligning your passions and expertise with what actually makes the business tick.
Makes a lot of sense. And I'm thinking, this could be valuable for individuals too, and you're trying to think about your career.
Absolutely. It applies on so many levels.
I like that.
And in the book, Collins gives a compelling example with Walgreens.
Oh, yeah. Walgreens, I know them.
So for years, they were just another general store, right?
Yeah, kind of.
But then they realized their hedgehog was actually becoming the best at convenient pharmacy services.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they doubled down on that,
Okay.
and they become a leader in their field.
So it's like they went from being a jack of all trades
Mm.
to mastering one specific thing.
Precisely. And that clarity of focus, I think, was really key.
Makes you think about all those businesses that try to be everything to everyone
Mm-hmm.
and end up being kind of forgettable.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Focusing on that intersection, that sweet spot, is what allows companies to truly excel.
Totally.
Right.
But once you have a good sense of direction, once you found your hedgehog,
Yeah.
then what?
Well, then you need the right team to make it all happen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You could have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right people executing it,
You're not going to get very far.
no, you're not. And that's where the principle of first who, then what comes in.
First who, then what. So before you figure out what you're going to do, you focus on who's going to do it.
Exactly.
That's kind of counterintuitive to how a lot of companies operate.
It is, but think of it this way. If you get the right people on the bus,
Okay.
the wrong people off the bus, and everyone in the right seats,
Uh-huh.
then figuring out where to drive that bus becomes a lot easier.
I love that analogy. That's perfect.
It is. It's really about surrounding yourself with people who share your vision, who are talented in their areas.
And who are willing to work together.
Absolutely. Towards a common goal. Makes sense. So you've got your A team in place, you've got a good direction.
Yeah.
But how do you keep that momentum going? How do you avoid those pitfalls that can derail even companies that look really promising?
Yeah, because let's face it, even with a great team and a solid plan, there are always going to be challenges, right?
Oh, for sure.
So that's where the concepts of the flywheel and the doom loop come in.
Okay, the flywheel and the doom loop. I'm getting a good versus evil vibe here.
Kinda.
So what's the difference?
Well, think of the flywheel as this powerful force that builds momentum over time.
Okay.
It starts with these small, consistent pushes, and over time, those efforts, they compound and create this unstoppable force.
I see. So it's not about one big push, it's about many smaller ones.
Exactly. It's like pushing a heavy flywheel. At first, it's really difficult,
Yeah.
but with each push, it gets a little easier, and eventually it's spinning with incredible force.
It makes those quick fix schemes we see all the time seem kind of pointless.
They often are, because you can't just force the flywheel to spin faster.
Right. You have to build that momentum over time.
Exactly. Now, the doom loop, on the other hand,
Okay.
that's all about those quick fixes, those sudden changes in strategy.
Uh-huh.
Companies caught in the doom loop are constantly chasing fads, reacting to short-term pressures.
They never really build a good foundation,
Exactly. They're trying to shortcut their way to greatness.
but they end up running in circles.
Right.
So the key is consistency, discipline, trusting the process.
Exactly. And you know what's fascinating is how all these principles connect.
Okay. How so?
Building the right team that helps you power the flywheel,
Uh-huh.
and having that clear hedgehog concept,
Right.
that gives you the focus to resist the doom loop.
I see. It's like they all work together.
They do. They reinforce each other, creating a really powerful system for success.
I like it.
Hmm.
So we've got strong leadership, a clear focus, the right team, a steady way to grow.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's still something missing. What about the environment where all of this can actually thrive?
Right. That's where a culture of discipline comes in.
A culture of discipline. I'm picturing order efficiency, maybe a little bit of strictness.
It's not about being rigid or micromanaging.
Yeah.
It's more about fostering an environment where disciplined people, disciplined thought processes and actions.
They're just the norm.
Exactly. Having clear expectations, holding people accountable, but also giving them the freedom to innovate.
So there's structure, but there's also space for creativity.
Exactly. It's like a well-oiled machine.
Okay.
Everyone knows their part. They work with precision, but there's also room for individual initiative.
Got it. And this culture of discipline probably helps keep that flywheel spinning.
Absolutely. And helps you avoid the doom loop, too.
Makes sense. So we've talked about leadership strategy, people resilience culture, but we haven't mentioned the big elephant in the room.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Technology.
Of course.
Where does that fit into all of this good to great stuff?
That's a big question, and Collins actually addresses it head on.
Because there's so much pressure to constantly innovate.
Right. To be on the bleeding edge of technology.
It's exactly. But we've also seen companies get totally seduced by new technology, only to find out that it's not the magic bullet they were hoping for.
That happens all the time, and that's why Collins emphasizes technology as an accelerator, not a catalyst.
Okay.
He found that the companies that really made the leap,
Yeah.
they weren't always the earliest adopters.
Huh. Interesting. So it's more about being strategic with technology.
Exactly. It's understanding that technology is a tool, a
Right.
very powerful tool, but it's only as effective as the strategy and the people using it.
So if your core business is, let's say, making handcrafted furniture,
Right.
becoming a software company just because it's trendy isn't going to make you great.
It's not going to suddenly make you the best furniture maker.
Right. But if you use technology to streamline your production or connect with customers in new ways, that could be huge.
Exactly. And in the book, they use the example of Fannie Mae. They were incredibly successful at using technology, but it wasn't the source of their success.
It was their foundation.
Exactly.
Strong leadership, clear strategy, disciplined culture. Those were the key ingredients.
So be tech-enabled, not tech-obsessed.
I like that.
It's about understanding where technology fits in your overall plan,
And using it to accelerate your progress.
not letting it be the only driver.
Right. And what's so compelling about all of these principles
Yeah.
is that they're all interconnected. They build on each other to create this powerful system.
Like a recipe.
Yeah, where every ingredient contributes to the final dish.
You can't just focus on one thing and expect amazing results.
Exactly. And what I find particularly interesting is how these principles can apply not just to companies,
Okay.
but to individual teams, even to personal goals.
Oh, interesting.
The ideas of leadership strategy, discipline, confronting reality.
You're kind of universal.
They are.
Yeah.
It's about taking the underlying principles.
And adapting them to your own situation.
Exactly. Recognizing that going from good to great, it's a process.
Not just a quick fix.
Exactly. It's a journey, and it's a journey that's within reach for anyone who's willing to put in the work.
Exactly. To embrace these principles and commit to that consistent effort.
To make that flywheel spin.
Exactly. And speaking of real-world examples,
Yes, let's hear about some companies that Collins talks about.
the ones who actually put these ideas into practice.
And got great results.
Exactly. Let's look at Circuit City Walgreens and Kimberly-Clark.
Okay, Circuit City, I remember them. They were big in electronics.
They struggled for a bit,
Uh-huh.
but then they had a major turnaround.
How'd they do it?
They focused on employee quality and customer service.
Okay.
They realized that having knowledgeable, helpful staff who could guide customers through all the complex stuff.
In the world of electronics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a real advantage.
So that was their Hedgehog concept, being the best at customer service in their field.
Exactly. And it worked incredibly well.
Awesome. Now, we already talked about Walgreens a bit,
We did.
but it's worth repeating how powerful that focus on being the best at convenient pharmacy services was for them.
It transformed their business.
It's a perfect example of how focusing on what you could be the best at, instead of trying to be everything to everyone, can really lead to big success.
Absolutely. And then there's Kimberly-Clark.
The Kleenex and Huggies company.
Yes. They made some tough choices.
Like what?
Recognizing that not every part of their business was contributing to that greatness goal.
Makes sense.
So they divested, they sold off weaker areas.
To focus on their core strengths?
Exactly. To really double down on what they did best in consumer paper goods.
It worked.
And they became a dominant player in their market.
It's fascinating to see how all these companies from different industries with different challenges were able to apply these principles and get such amazing results.
It's really something. There's definitely something powerful here.
Definitely something worth exploring further.
Absolutely.
But for now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into good to great, looking at more examples and practical takeaways
that you can actually use in your own life and work.
So stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into good to great. Before the break, we were talking about how these principles can be surprisingly relevant.
Even to teams and individual goals, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting how even when you're dealing with something as complex as technology, good to great still offers some really useful insights.
It does. Collins actually found that the companies that really made that leap weren't always the ones chasing every tech trend.
That's pretty surprising. We're constantly being told about the importance of innovation disruption.
Right. Got to be on the bleeding edge.
Exactly. So are you saying there's some wisdom in being a little bit cautious?
I think it's not so much about being afraid of technology. It's more about being strategic and really discerning. Remember that principle, technology as an accelerator.
Yeah.
It's all about amplifying what you're already good at.
Not expecting tech to magically solve all your problems.
Exactly.
So don't try to become a tech company if it doesn't make sense for your core business.
Right.
It's about understanding how technology can support your Hedgehog concept.
Exactly. Your area of expertise.
Okay, so think about it this way. If your passion is building these beautiful hand-built guitars,
Yeah.
becoming a software company just to be trendy,
Right.
that's not going to suddenly make you a guitar-making master.
Not at all.
But using technology to maybe analyze wood grain for better resonance,
Right.
or connects with customers who appreciate that craftsmanship,
Yeah.
that could make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So be tech-enabled, not tech-obsessed.
I like that distinction.
Now, earlier we talked about that culture of discipline.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, that phrase sounds a little bit intimidating to me.
I can understand that.
What does that actually look like in a company day to day?
It's not about having a ton of rules or being super rigid.
Okay.
Imagine an environment where everyone is on the same page about the goals.
Mm-hmm.
They're empowered to make decisions,
Right.
but there's a framework of clear expectations and accountability.
So it's kind of like a jazz ensemble.
Oh, I like that.
You've got that basic melody, but each musician has the freedom to improvise.
Yes. And together they create something amazing.
Exactly. It's that balance of individual creativity.
Within a structured environment.
Exactly. And it's not just actions, it's thought processes too, right?
Absolutely. Like challenging assumptions,
Yeah.
really digging into why things are done a certain way.
Speaking of digging deeper,
Yeah.
that Stockdale paradox really stuck with me. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure.
It feels very relevant right now with so much uncertainty in the world.
It does. And remember, the Stockdale paradox is about holding these two seemingly opposing ideas.
Okay.
So unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end,
Mm-hmm.
while also confronting the brutal facts of your current situation.
No matter how tough they are.
Exactly.
It's so easy to either fall into that blind optimism
Right. Ignoring problems.
or just get bogged down in negativity.
Yeah, this paradox suggests a different approach.
That middle pass.
Exactly. Acknowledging the difficulties, but never losing faith that you'll find the solution.
I see.
Imagine you're lost in a dense forest, right?
Oh.
The Stockdale paradox says, yes, I'm lost, this is bad, but I know I'll find my way out eventually.
Okay.
That keeps you moving forward, trying different paths instead of just giving up.
So you don't deny the challenges,
No.
but you don't let them stop you either.
Exactly.
It's that inner resilience, that belief in yourself, even when things are tough.
That's it. And you know what impressed me about Colin's research?
What's that?
He didn't just study the successes. He also looked at the companies that failed.
The ones that didn't make that leap.
Exactly. He wanted to understand what went wrong.
Because we can often learn more from failure than from success.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So what did those companies that stayed stuck in good have in common?
Yeah, what was holding them back?
Many of them fell into what Collins calls the doom loop. They were constantly chasing quick fixes, jumping on the latest trends.
Without a good foundation.
Right. Without a solid understanding of their core values and strengths.
It's like trying to build a house on sand.
Exactly. It's just not sustainable.
So those quick wins might be tempting,
They are.
but they're not going to lead to lasting greatness.
It's about building that solid foundation
Based on your Hedgehog concept, your culture of discipline,
and that willingness to face the brutal facts.
even when they're uncomfortable.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
These principles can be applied to our personal lives as well.
Oh, absolutely. We all have goals and dreams.
Right, whether it's in your career, your relationships, personal growth.
We all have those moments where we're stuck in our own personal doom loop
Right, jumping from one self-improvement fad to the next.
without making any real progress.
Exactly, and that's where these principles can make a huge difference.
Okay, so how would you apply something like the Hedgehog concept to your personal life?
Well, it's about figuring out what you're truly passionate about,
Okay.
what you're naturally good at, and what you find intrinsically rewarding.
Finding that sweet spot.
Yes, where your passions, your talents, your values all intersect.
So it's not just about external validation,
No,
like money or prestige,
it's about finding that inner drive.
that sense of purpose.
Exactly, the thing that keeps you going even when things get tough.
And just like in business, we need to be disciplined in how we approach our goals.
Absolutely. Consistent in our efforts, willing to confront the tough truths about ourselves.
Be honest about our weaknesses.
Exactly, and be open to learning and growing.
Making those changes to reach our full potential.
That's it. Be patient, be persistent, and never give up on your dreams.
No matter how challenging the journey might be. And what I find really inspiring is that it's not just about achieving success for ourselves.
Right.
It's about making a positive impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. Whether you're building a successful business,
Yeah.
leading a team to greatness, or simply becoming the best version of yourself,
These principles can help us create that ripple effect of positive change.
that extends far beyond ourselves.
It's about using our talents, our passions, to make the world a better place.
One step at a time.
Exactly. And that's something worth striving for.
It is. And you know, one thing that's really important to remember,
What's that?
the journey from good to great, it's not always a straight line.
That there are going to be setbacks, challenges.
Absolutely. Times when you question if it's all worth it.
It's like sailing a ship through a storm.
Ooh, I like that.
You're going to hit rough seas.
Yeah.
You might even feel like you're going to capsize.
But the key is to stay focused on your destination.
Right.
Adjust your sails as needed and never lose sight of the horizon.
Have the courage to weather the storm, learn from those mistakes.
And come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. And it really helps to have people around you who believe in you.
It does. People who support your vision and challenge you to be your best.
Like having a crew of experienced sailors.
Yes, to help you navigate those rough waters.
Keep the ship on course.
Exactly. And be willing to learn from others. Find those mentors and role models who have already achieved the kind of success you're aiming for.
Be humble enough to admit that you don't have all the answers.
Be open to new ideas and perspectives.
You know, one of the biggest takeaways I've gotten from good to great
Yeah.
is that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
It's not just about reaching the summit. It's about enjoying the climb.
The challenges, the camaraderie, the growth that happens along the way.
Exactly. And it's about celebrating those small wins.
Recognizing the progress you've made.
And giving yourself credit for all the effort you're putting in.
It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns.
And knowing that even if you don't end up exactly where you thought you would,
You've still learned and grown.
and that's what really matters.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive into good to great,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this thought. These principles aren't just about business success.
No, they're not.
They're about living a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
In all areas of your life.
Being true to yourself, pursuing your passions, and making a positive impact.
Exactly. It's about never settling for good when you have the potential to achieve greatness.
And that potential is within all of us.
It is. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to think about these principles.
Reflect on how you can apply them in your own life.
And start taking those small, consistent actions.
That can lead to extraordinary results.
Over time.
It's about embracing the challenge, the journey, and the possibility.
Of achieving something truly remarkable.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be talking about your story
As an inspiring example.
of how these principles can transform not just businesses, but lives as well. All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive into good to great. It's been pretty amazing exploring all these concepts.
Yeah, from level 5 leadership to the Hedgehog Concept and everything in between.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
But now we want to make sure you don't just walk away with information, but that you feel equipped to actually use it.
Right, because we've covered a ton of ground.
Yeah.
But how do you translate these ideas into action?
How do you actually put them to work?
Whether you're leading a team or running a business or just working on your own personal goals.
Right.
Because I bet some people are thinking, this is all great, but where do I even start?
It can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, going from big ideas to concrete steps.
And that's where remembering the flywheel effect comes in handy.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
You don't need some massive overnight change.
It's about the small steps.
Exactly. Those consistent actions that build momentum over time.
So don't try to do everything at once.
Right.
Pick one thing that really resonated with you from this whole conversation.
Yeah, like, was it the hedgehog concept?
Maybe those level 5 leadership qualities.
Exactly. And then ask yourself, what's one tiny step I could take today to move in that direction?
Maybe it's just taking 15 minutes to brainstorm your passions.
Or having a quick chat with your team about getting the right people in the right roles.
Yeah, even just keeping these principles in mind as you make decisions throughout the day.
Yeah, like planting those seeds.
Of good to great thinking.
Absolutely. And another practical tip I have is to get really good at asking why.
Why? Why?
Exactly. And not just once, maybe 5 times in a row.
Really dig deep.
Yeah, peel back those layers of assumptions and get to the heart of things.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, like, why are we doing this project this way? Why is this process so clunky? Why is this person not thriving?
It's like being a detective.
Yeah, uncovering the real story.
And that can often lead to new solutions.
Unexpected ones, even.
Now, we talked about getting the right people on the bus.
Uh-huh.
And I think that applies to your personal life as well.
It does. Who are the people who support your growth, who challenge you constructively, who inspire you to be your best self?
And sometimes it's also about recognizing who maybe shouldn't be on your bus.
The people who need a different route.
Yeah, tough decisions, but necessary sometimes.
Absolutely. Here's a little challenge for you, our listener.
Okay.
Think about a recent setback. You faced something that didn't go your way.
Okay, got it.
Now put on your Stockdale Paradox hat.
Right.
How can you accept the reality of that situation?
The brutal facts.
Yes, while still believing that you will overcome it.
It's not about ignoring the problem,
Yeah.
but it's also not about giving up.
It's about resilience and creative problem solving and tapping into that inner strength.
I like it. And before we wrap up, I want to say that Good to Great isn't just a one-time read. It's
Oh,
something you
wow.
can come back to again and again.
As you grow and change.
Yeah, as your goals evolve, as you face new challenges.
It's like having this wise mentor on your bookshelf.
Always ready with guidance.
Exactly. So as we close out this deep dive into good to great,
Yeah,
we want to leave you with this thought. Greatness isn't some magical destination for a select few.
right, it's not.
It's a journey that's open to anyone who embraces these principles.
Who puts in the work and never stops learning and growing.
Exactly. And what's truly exciting is that we all have that potential within us
To achieve amazing things.
in our lives, our work, our communities,
It starts with one step and then another and another.
until that flywheel starts spinning with unstoppable force.
I love that image. So go out there, embrace the challenge, and never stop striving for greatness.
Who knows, maybe one day we'll be sharing your story as an example of how these principles can transform lives.
Because good to great isn't just about businesses, it's about people.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it valuable, and we can't wait to see what you achieve on your own journey to greatness.